right. Hello, everybody, and welcome again to the Microsoft training series. Just a quick recap of kind of why we do this, how we do this, and then I'll pass it over to Fred. This is a joint effort between multiple IT companies around the country, Alltek Services, Global Quest, GDS, and Data Magic. And we want to provide continuous training to our clients on different Office products, such as Microsoft Project. So this is strictly just to, provide value, teach our users on the products and services that we recommend to them. And it's just been a great initiative. We get a lot of positive feedback, so we just keep doing it. I feel like if we did it and nobody cared or nobody said anything, we'd probably stop doing it, but it seems to be pretty popular, so we just keep it going. These are all recorded and are put on everybody's individual YouTube pages and websites. So today we are covering Microsoft Project through 365. It's a great tool for project management. And we have an awesome guest speaker today, Fred. Fred has decades of experience specifically in project management, including Microsoft Project. So just super excited to have him here. It looks like Aaron just joined. Hey, Aaron. And Mike is here too. I guess I'll add everybody to the stage before we get going. Aaron, Mike, thanks for joining. We're about to kick this thing off. You excited?
Yeah, looking forward to it.
All right. And then anybody who's here, you can comment into the comment section if you have any questions throughout the presentation. We'll also have a Q&A at the end. So without further ado, Fred, I think I already introduced you, so I will let you take it from here. Thank you so much for doing this today.
Thank you so much, Taher, and thank you everyone for joining us today. Yeah, excited to be here. Microsoft Project is probably one of my favorite tools, and definitely really excited to showcase and highlight some of the features and some of the best use cases that we can have on this product. And yeah, as Taher mentioned, we'll have some walk around through the tool, have a very short presentation. I won't bore you, that is for sure. And definitely something that I would like to enhance is keep all the questions ongoing, and we have a specific space and time for questions at the end, but feel free to raise anything on the comments here in the webinar site, and more than happy to address those as we walk through. Starting today, we're going to see very briefly what this product can do. And definitely, as you can see, there will be several features and options available for different scenarios. So it's quite a very powerful tool, and there are different options. So if there's any specific area or option you're more interested in, feel free to reach me out. And definitely, I will try to address some of these things today in the webinar, but we can always follow up later. I'd like to call this webinar specifically for project managers and decision makers. Not only project managers are users of Microsoft Project as a tool that is created and aimed for an entire team, but from my experience, it primarily serves specific purpose, and that is to provide information to keep decisions based on data, based on facts, and to keep everything organized. So for decision makers and primarily managers, this tool is a lifesaver in many occasions. So the agenda for today will be an introduction, PowerPoint, and key features of Project 365. We will walk through the tool and showcase some of its features. We're going to take a look at some intermediate level features, a little bit more of an advanced options for some specific users. We'll have a Q&A session, conclusion and next steps, and a final QA in case something is needed. Brief presentation about myself. I'm an Agile Technical Project Manager. I've been working with projects for over 20 years. My areas of expertise are Scrum, Hybrid, Kanban, you name it. I've been a tool evaluator for project management tools. I'm a trainer, and I've been working with Microsoft Project forever, I believe. I think I started around 1998. I've been looking at the development of these product since a long time ago. The intended presentation is for an audience of beginners and intermediate users, and especially for people using Project 365. As we will see later on, there are a lot of different flavors for Microsoft Project, and we will do a quick overview of the different options we have. What do we want to achieve today is to discover a potential of Microsoft Project 365, lend key features, and showcase some of its applications. We're going to go a little bit deeper into some of the specific features that Microsoft Project has to offer. And yeah, as I mentioned several times, the idea is mostly to get some questions being responded based on my experience with the product. Let me start really quick about what is Microsoft Project. Well, Microsoft Project is primarily a project management software, and the idea is to assist. And let me highlight this word, is to provide some level of assistance to people that makes decisions, to people that runs projects. And the idea is that it will help you to get you organized in planning, executing, tracking, and all kinds of projects. Its key functions is planning, resource management, task scheduling, cost management, and reporting and analytics as well. One of the questions I get a lot is why Microsoft Project? Some people use Microsoft Planner, some other people is very comfortable using Excel, some other people, they're old school. Pen and paper is all they need. But there's some features right now that I believe make Microsoft Project a very good option. And one of its core features is about cloud accessibility. Now, with the current state of work where we have everybody working remote or a lot of people working remote, the ability to work on the cloud is very, very useful. It enhances team collaboration when everybody's looking at the same file and you get real-time information. Is definitely something that boosts productivity. Interface is really simple to use. It's very similar to other Microsoft applications like Word, Excel. So you have the same buttons, the same menus, more or less organized in the same manner. It gives you a very specific way to track specific tasks. And as most of the project managers know, Gantt charts are probably the most visual and important way to track how a project is going. And it allows a lot of features to correct resource allocation that goes together with budget control, cost control, and whatnot. One of the things I like the most, they have really good templates and templates that allow you to start not from scratch, but with already very well designed structure. And yeah, reports are very visual. They can go as detailed or as high level as needed. It integrates sweetly with Office 365. So especially with Excel, if you're more used to work with Excel, it's just a matter of copying and pasting. And one of the latest features, which I'm starting to test for the past few months, is the mobile app, which is also a very nice addition, especially for the few of us that sometimes you have to go on a road. Sometimes all you have is your cell phone, and with your mobile app, there's a lot of features that you can do directly on your mobile. So that's a nice feature and change that has been introduced lately. One of the things I want to briefly talk about is about the different options we have. And yeah, Microsoft has been rolling out several flavors or different options for Microsoft Project. And yeah, they have different tiers. You have the standalone version or the on-premise solution, as Microsoft call it, which starts with Project Standard and it goes to Project Professional. And for large enterprises, there is also a version for Project Server that is intended for very large teams and organizations that are specifically working with different levels or different versions of the same software. As for the most common feature, there is the cloud-based solutions. Microsoft now calls them Plan 1, Plan 3, and Plan 5. And depending on your specific needs, there are different options you can choose from. All of them provides the basic functionality of Microsoft Project. If you're really looking into resource management, then you need to look at the professional versions or Plan 3 or 5. If you're looking at portfolio and demand management, definitely you have to go to the highest tier. And there are different apps that play nicer or they're better integrated with each other. So there are Project for the Web, Online Essentials, and you have also the desktop client. So given all these different features and given all these different options you have, the big question most of my clients ask is, which one should I choose? And as always, natural answer is it depends. So project for the web is fantastic. Lots of new features, very easy to use. It allows for a lot of groups integration, and it's built on their Microsoft Power Platform. Project Online is probably a little bit more aimed at a more complex scenarios where you have the need for a more detailed tracking on projects. You're probably integrating this with cost accounting, or you have to keep track of a lot of different fields regarding costs, regarding hours, and it's primarily based on SharePoint. As always, Microsoft provides lots of options to integrate those. So on Project Plan 3 or Project Plan 5, there is always a way to seamlessly integrate Project for the Web and Project Online together. If you are curious about this, Microsoft has some specific pages of information about the different features. One of them is highlighted here. If you go to aka.ms/which project, you will find lots of information about the different ones and some very cool videos showcasing one or the other. And yes, why project? And this is one of the quotes that a long time ago a professor of mine used to say all the time is, if you can handle on the small things, how will you ever get it together to focus on the big things? Especially for managers and decision makers. Sometimes everything gets confused on the details. And when everything gets confused on the details, that's when you need to realize that planning is about getting things organized, and having a tool that provides you all this information in real time lets you decide what is the level of detail that you need at any point in time. So having said this, let's walk straight to the tool. And I will start with the first one, which is Project for the Web. Many of you might be familiar with the 365 environment, and one of the initial ways to start looking at what do I have, you can always go to the 365 site and you can have access to most used options like Outlook, Teams, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, whatnot. Project comes only with a specific subscription, so it's not standard on Office 365. And you can always verify this on your app's dashboard that you have available, and you can check all the different Microsoft products you have. And in this case, if I click on Microsoft Project, I do have Plan 5 subscription that allows me to showcase the different options that we have. So very easy, very intuitive interface. You can always start with a new project, and you can always have different options on what projects do you have available or you have opened in the past. So if I click on a new project, you have immediately the option to start from scratch, create something on blank, or to work with some of the pre-built templates. These pre-built templates are very useful. They are designed with project managers and professionals, and they provide very good starting point on when to start. So you can check all of them. They go to very specific about construction, software development, sprint planning, to very simple ones like simple project, or ones that can be adapted to different scenarios like project management. For example, on simple project, it will provide you in the beginning with a very easy to use template. And this template is what some people believe is a really powerful to-do list. And you can have different tasks or summaries, specific subtasks, and you can add notes, you can add reminders, you can assign it to different people. Very important, you can have a specific duration. The duration will roll over to provide this group by different tasks, and you can have different labels. As you can see, it's a very clean and very simple layout, but that doesn't mean it's not very powerful. You have different views, like the board view, and this is a Kanban board. For project managers, you're probably very familiar with Kanban boards. Is something that in a very visual and simple way provides way to move things around. So a very common one are backlog, up next, in progress, blocked, and completed. And you can just move cards around as soon as this progress changes and the status changes. If there's something blocked, I can move things here. And this is a good way to collaborate because some people are specialized in finding their own role depending on the board. So if I'm the solution provider, I always look at what is being blocked. What can we do to unblock it? If I'm a manager that is tracking specific tasks, I'm really curious about knowing what is in progress. If I'm at the planning stage, definitely I wanted to look what is on the backlog, what's coming up next. So this is very simple to move things to the right as progress advances. And as always, you can double click on each one of them and get additional details. So I can always edit and change the name. I can always assign this to new people, add labels, change or modify start date, finish date, duration. I can add percentage of completeness. Let's say this is 50%. I can change which bucket it is. I can change priorities. And if I'm into the agile mindset, definitely you can go to the different sprints or whatnot and estimate effort. One other really good feature that is one of the cornerstone of Microsoft Project and probably what it made it really popular with project managers is the ability to connect tasks to each other and to add dependencies. And these dependencies basically are saying if one task can be run independently, it needs to wait until some previous task has been completed before I'm able to move to the new one, or if they can be run in parallel. Scenarios you can have that this task needs to end at the same time as this other task, and all of these options is something I can define from a very simple menu. So I have a dependency that I can do finish to start, which is the most common one, finish to finish, start to start, start to finish, and whatnot. And all of these will primarily link the different tasks together. I also have the ability to connect to goals or more bigger objectives, depending on how your internal organization likes to treat different things. Some companies like to call them epic. Some companies like to use the goals to split things by departments. It depends on what your specific organization needs are. And thing is that the software provides different options to get this done and organize as you would like. So all of these are updated in real time. I'm working on the cloud, so everything I'm changing right now is immediately available for anybody else that has joined this team or this specific project. Once these start growing, I can add filters and I can organize things by finish date, what is due today, what is due tomorrow, what is in progress, different labels, and whatnot. And for the project managers out there, you will see some common concepts like the critical path, which primarily shows me what it's being done and what needs to be done depending on the relevance that if something is not achieved, it will move the entire timeline because it's critical for the dependencies to go as scheduled. Other than filtering things, you can always group things and organize things by different buckets. So not only filtering is an option to select some specific types of tasks, but you can also group them directly depending on the different criteria. And group members is where I have very nice control of who has access to this, and using resources and group of resources is a very simple way to assign or provide people with the right level of access. As for many visual people out there, the timeline view, which is the next one, is the one that provides a lot of information with a simple visual representation of the task and the dependencies. So in this example, I can see from the summary, these two are grouped within this timeline. These two tasks are linked together. Then I go to the second group of tasks. And as I can see, for example, here's where I added 50% completion. So it's very visual and very easy to keep track of things. If at some point I need to make adjustments, this can be done also directly from here. Let's say that instead of these taking a couple of days, this needs to be moved to the right because some unforeseen circumstances. And as you can see, since I defined these dependencies to go along and only start when this one has been completed, the moment I move, everything moves around. And now I can see that my end date or my specific task will be moved accordingly, and I can make all the changes and adjustments as necessary. So you can always organize the start date, the end date, and whatnot, and keep these things as visual as needed. You also have the ability to work on different charts. So these are pre-built on this template, but you can add different widgets that provide you different kinds of information. So one of the most common ones are the different tasks. Here I can see that I haven't started 4, that 5 are in progress. I can see which ones are completed, which ones are late. So I can draw my attention to those that are in need or are delayed. You can have different kind of graphs showing this in columns. And very importantly, right now, I'm the only one assigned to this group, but once I have the different team members, I can assign different tasks to different people and take a good look about the effort required per person. This can be in units of time. This can be in other kind of effort units as defined by your organization. But here I can see that one person is not overload. I can balance things and organize in a very visual way and get instant information about who has some additional capacity or who will require more time. So a quick review shows you that on every simple project, you have your grid where you have the different tasks and the summary. Have ways to organize things in columns, who this is assigned to, very simple to assign. In this case, I can assign this to myself, the duration, the different labels, and you can add additional columns depending on other options you would like to see. If you would like to see effort, I can have this summarized. If you like to see the finished time, this is something that can be highlighted primarily, and I can see things visually more or less like in an Excel spreadsheet. You have a board option, as I mentioned before, a very simple Kanban where I can move things around, left, right, and the timeline where I visually can see that as a Gantt chart. All the reports with the different widgets, status, bucket, and whatnot. And I can see also the different people that has been assigned to different tasks and more or less start organizing and creating my staff management options. As a goal, I can add different goals. As I mentioned before, this can be epics. So I can epic 1 and I can organize this as specific end date and priority. And if this is something that is assigned to other people, that can be organized as well. So this is primarily project for the web. As you will see, we have also the option to get a little bit more complex, and we can have also the ability to work on more detailed levels of information on task. And for these people, I might suggest that you can go with a different flavor or the different project option, which is Project Professional, that provides additional features. And let me quickly show you some of them. Here is the Project Professional view. As you can see, there are some similarities. It has a similar layout as in PowerPoint or Excel. And here, as with Project for the Web, you have the ability to create new projects and start from different templates, or open some existing ones. So in this case, for example, I can show you one of the projects I've been working on the previous weeks, which has some levels of complexity. I have created subcontractor codes in this case. I have different levels of percentage of complete, and I have highlighted a very specific critical path. As you can see, the dependencies on this project are not always start to finish, but I can make use of different options, and all these levels of complexity can be managed with project at ease. I also have the ability to get an inspector to find out if there are any inconsistency, if I move things around, but definitely there are some things that can be viewed and organized directly with the menu. So as always, the file menu provides you ability to print, to open things. The task view have always the different tasks and again viewed together. You can also have some view on the timeline, and these can all be controlled directly from the level of menu. As for resources, I have a lot more options, as you can see. As far as reports, definitely this is something that can be created on the spot, and I have as well lots of different ways to provide additional levels of reporting options for the different people. I can always go to the project view and add sub-projects. That's another neat feature that this has. So if I have independently running projects, I can tie them together to have some visibility on the same place, or I can work with them independently. One of the nicest features about adding additional projects into the same project I'm working on is any changes that I do at the same time will be reflected on the original project file. So this is interconnected as well. I can always go back to my Gantt chart view, and as you will see, I can control pretty much this with a menu that is somehow similar to the ones we're used to in Excel or in Word. You have always the help option, and here you can always start from scratch, as I said before, or create something new. And one of the nicest features, or one of the quick tricks I use, is most of the time I get information about projects done in Excel. So as you can see here, this was a project that was very simple one, created with the specific steps, duration, dependencies, and who's the resource. So what I did, I cleaned it up, all of these, but I can just simply copy and paste things from Excel to project. So if I just click on copy on the simple version, and I go to my other window, here I have my blank project. I go to the task and I quickly can paste things directly from Excel, and this helps me to avoid lots of typing. Here I can also organize things as I had on grouping these by stages. With a simple indentation, this gets already grouped. You can click and select different tasks at the same time. And by indenting, I'm already telling Microsoft Project that this needs to be organized in this way. I can do several indentations. So let's say that all of these are part of stage one. I can also indent this even further, and it will group things as I'm organizing them. In this case, let me go back to this. And of course, as you can see, I have also a timeline here on the top that allows me to have a very clear visibility. I can always organize things differently. So let's say that this will take 2 days, this will take 4, and this will take 6. And I'm already visualizing this on the right. If I'm saying that this is a predecessor of the previous one, just by clicking the number, it will take the start to finish option, and I can always modify this directly here. So I can adjust the duration, and I can move things around. If I click this one and I said I wanted to see this on the timeline, just by right clicking, I can add this to the timeline, and this will immediately be reflected as well on the top. So if I go ahead and do things as before, if I click just the number, Microsoft Project is this as days by default, but I can use different things. I can say that the campaign launch is 2 weeks. So by clicking 2W, it already recognizes this as weeks and even months. Oh, sorry, it will take 1 minute, but you can take also 1 month. Or if you just click a number, it will assume it will take days. And I can, as before, mention that this needs to happen only when number 4 is completed, number 6 is completed, and when number 8 is completed. Sorry, number 7. And as you can see, this gets already populated and grouped as we speak. Here I can add it to the timeline as well, just by clicking on the right side, and this will be shown here. I can move my timeline around, and this will adjust also the way I'm viewing this and how this is being zoomed in or out. If I go to the resource names, I can always keep adding resource as we did before. I need to, in some cases, create this resource in advance, and I can also add new columns. Here we do have a lot more options than on Project for the Web. You have percentage complete, you have actual cost, duration, overtime cost. You can have different levels of assignment. You can have different specific fields for baselines. And you can have cost constraints, variables, you name it. All of these will probably require a very extensive webinar of several weeks just to go over the different options we have on this one. But here, the idea is that you can see that there are flexibility on the ones you can create, or you can take the ones that are already being predefined by you. As with always, Microsoft has been very eminent in providing you a lot of features on visualizing things. So by double clicking on the Gantt chart, I can change color. And I can say this is something that I want to visualize differently, or if something is completed, it can take different shapes, and I can start by organizing things using the colors I'm more comfortable with, or probably colors that are better related to specific departments. I have my inspector that is something that automatically calculates days based on links, constraints, and other factors. And the moment I'm manually scheduling these things, I can already ask the inspector to look for errors or inconsistencies. And that's a very easy way to make sure that things are getting on track and as intended. And yeah, there are a lot of other features. I can create milestones, and I can always make sure that these things are visually represented and provides a lot of information. So if I add 0 day, Microsoft Project already recognized this as a milestone. I can say that this is always at the end of this other task, and this can be shown. One of the things that probably is important for you to know is that here you also have the ability to adjust calendars, and not only a general calendar for team members, but a specific calendars per user. So you can, by default, this takes the regular calendar where weekends are being grayed out. And if I say something takes 6 days, it will take 5 days from 1 week and move the end of the task towards the next working day. You can add or remove holidays. So all of these can be also adjusted directly by defining, and this will be specific for each project. So you can have one calendar for one project, another calendar for another project, or a different calendar for different teams and whatnot. So all of these can be organized directly with a team planner, where you can assign resources or use resource pools where you can see who is available, who has some capacity, and start organizing things differently. So you can you can ask a Microsoft project to find over allocation of resources, kind of provide you with some help on seeing and identifying where you might have bottlenecks, you might have over allocated some tasks to one team member, and all of these can be somehow automated as well. You have the options of leveling, so you can set limits of how many tasks or how many hours or how much effort it could be assigned to different team members. And that is something that you can always define per each project. Finally, as before, the report is very simple. I always like to go to dashboards, and here you can have pre-built reports about burn down charts. Project managers will know how relevant those are, and you can see cost overview, project overview, upcoming task, and some other reports. And this is kind of a pre-built on gadgets. As you can see, it's a little bit more detailed and professional looking than Project for the Web. So keep in mind that Microsoft Project is becoming the standard for specifically construction projects. For example, a lot of local and federal agencies require a specific charts or reports being submitted in a Microsoft Project specific format. So you'll never know when you are going to be needing to get a use of one of those reports. So as you can see on the ones that I showed you earlier, for example, this was something that was specifically requested for a network diagram review, and this was something that the regulators needed to approve this specific project. And this is something that Microsoft Project provides by default. As I was mentioning here, you have a calendar where you can organize things as needed with a very clear calendar view. In this case, we had specific tasks assigned to the specific timelines. And yeah, you can always tie this with the team planner and the different resources. So, bottom line, Microsoft Project can be as simple or as complex as you want. And there are so many features that unfortunately this time is not always enough to showcase and highlight everything that you can do with this product. At this point, Taher, I don't know if we're probably ready to be open for any questions.
Yeah, that was great. I didn't realize how much was included in the Microsoft Project. I mean, that was really awesome. So we will open it up for questions. I brought Mike and Aaron back in case they wanted to say anything. For any of the current attendees, if you guys have any questions at all for Fred while he's here, please post it in the comment. If not, and you think of a question later, don't worry. You can send it to the IT company that invited you. We can always get that answered for you. Fred is awesome and is very quick to reply, even though I'm not. So sorry, Fred. So we'll leave it open for another kind of minute or two. And if we don't get any questions, we can kind of wrap up a little bit early unless anyone else had anything they wanted to cover. Mike, Aaron, anything y'all wanted to kind of cover or any questions you had or anything?
I think what Mike was saying was he's not a project guy, but it was pretty straightforward presentation, and I'm sure it's helping a lot of people that watch today.
Nice.
I'll just be Mike's translator.
That worked great.
Probably one of the questions I get the most is exactly people that says, well, I'm not a project manager. How can I get used to this product if it's not specifically aimed to what I do? But definitely any manager always have the same question. who's doing what and when. And they need to know when something has been completed. They need to know if you have the capacity to commit resources. If they need to know if there is something you can respond to a client that requires a service or a different product. So even though you might not have the label of project manager, definitely you can make use of a tool and be on the know of what's going on, who's doing what and when, who's in charge of something. Is something being on the pipeline but is not happening? Is there a bottleneck? Is there something that I need to be concerned because we have sold too many widgets or we have committed too many resources for a specific date? And just by looking at the calendar view or something, I can already know that something might need to happen in order to be able to honor those commitments. So making informed decisions, database decisions is something that every single manager requires. And if it's not Microsoft Project, even if it's Excel or something, you can do that. Some managers are very good on keeping track of everything that is happening just by having very powerful to-do list on Word. Some other people like colors or calculations, they use Excel. But if you already have a built-in product that provides all these features out of the box, my recommendation is go with something that it's really, really helpful and really intuitive. You can probably take years to probably master it, but definitely it only take a couple of days till you get the use for it, and it will benefit anyone.
Love it. That's awesome, man. Well, surprisingly, we don't have any questions. We almost always have questions. You must have just done such an excellent job, Fred, that everyone's like, oh yeah, no, got it. So I guess with that, we'll probably just, wrap up. And anyone listening, if you have other trainings you're interested in, or if you want to see an advanced project or anything like that, please let us know. Without further ado, I guess we'll wrap things up. Fred, really, really appreciate your time today. That was very helpful. For anybody listening, we'll have the recording up on the YouTubes of the respective IT company that invited you, and you'll be hearing about future webinars in the coming weeks. So thanks, everybody, and we'll see you on the next one.
Take care.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye, everybody.